I want to talk about World of Warcraft. This is a game that I've spent many years playing, but haven't played in several months because of, quite frankly, the leadership and management differences between Blizzard and companies like, say, ZeniMax, or even Square Enix with Final Fantasy XIV. The big thing I've run into, I'm a longtime veteran of early WoW, classic, or should we say vanilla nowadays, because classic is its thing. Vanilla, Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, the early days of WoW. I played a paladin and still have my main as an alliance paladin all these years later. During the years when the genre or the archetype, so to speak, of the Holy Knight was completely emasculated into a dress-wearing healer, until notably into Burning Crusade. It's nice that folks like SFan and whatnot are changing some of the attitudes in World of Warcraft in Classic, because I'd be glad for Classic's meta to be retconned versus vanilla. To where, like, for example, a Shadow Priest isn't called a waste of a priest, or you don't hear the term ret noob anymore for ret paladins. So it's been interesting seeing what SFan's been able to do on his streams and in his YouTube videos for Retribution. But it wasn't like that in the original game. Oh no, the meta was a lot harsher. And if you were anything but a meta spec, you had no place in a raid. It's great to see that with some of the not really revisions, but classics starting out with, I think, 112, the Naxxramas patch, some of the issues and the growing pains of the earlier patches, for those of us that were there, were were addressed by the time the expansion was ending. I am concerned about Burning Crusade, though, because Retribution Paladins weren't fixed until patch 301, so if Burning Crusade Classic is based on 2.4, you have half-broken Ret Paladins. We talked about that earlier. SFan needs to have a contingency plan if that's what happens, because Retribution going from Burning Crusade to Lich King was fixed in baby steps, and not everything was fixed by 2.4, although there was some viability for a Ret Paladin in the Sunwell raid to use some of their buffs to bring down Brutalis back in the day. Now let's talk about the here and now with Classic and Retail. Specifically on this slide by the way, all this stuff's on my Twitter, Multimedia JAY over on Twitter. That's where all of this is coming from. If you want to read any of these articles for yourself, head on over to my Twitter and click the links to go on over to the articles. I keep things organized when I talk about stuff like this. After doubling in the second half of 2019, thanks Classic, World of Warcraft's active player community... Whoa, too hot. World of Warcraft's active player community increased further in Q1 as the team continued to deliver more content between expansions than ever before. Yay, Blizzard! Because I've been through so many of the content droughts at the end of expansions. ICC... Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, over a year, still too hot, over a year with no new content in the last patch in Mists of Pandaria. So, good stuff if Blizzard's learning, because the number one problem I've ever had with Blizzard devs is the hubris that you see from the developers towards the player base. The finger waggy stuff that you see in the forums. Nowadays, there's community managers to mediate the discussion a little more. That's what the problem is. Yeah, bring down the level on the mic. It's hot from something I was doing earlier. Let's bring it down a couple of decibels so I can and not turn it red. There we go. It's been a while since I used OBS because I'm a rookie. Noob. Whatever. So, yes, World of Warcraft's active player community grew further. Yeah, well, of course, people are excited about the Shadowlands expansion. As the team continued to deliver more content between expansions than ever before, people are also hyped about the expansion, and the alpha is out, as we've seen. If you follow Asmongold's channel, he's been experimenting with some stuff on there. And it's been making for some very interesting videos on Asmongold TV. If you can't watch the streams live, the videos go to YouTube, and they're edited, and they're cool and stuff like that. Region engagement were particularly strong as regions introduced shelter-at-home measures throughout the quarter, with momentum increasing further in April. Increased engagement in Modern WoW, that's a biggie, drove accelerating pre-sales for the upcoming Shadowlands expansion slated for the second half of this year. Now, folks, this may look like progress because of problems with previous expansions, but don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. World of Warcraft has had an ongoing problem for most of its existence of what I like to call the patch mentality. And it's a way that Blizzard has been able to bring in some more money from people that may not be as interested in playing the game. So, here's the thing. The patch mentality, the way it works is you hear there's a new patch coming out and you like what's coming out in the patch so much that you don't want to play live. You wish you could just be on the PTR all the time. It's a bummer when you have to go back to live when the PTR goes down. So, if you don't cancel your subscription, or if you're in one of those like, oh, pay less per month by buying chunks of game time at a time. If you're in a situation where you can't cancel your subscription as your interest in the game comes and goes, if you're not in a position like that, you have a situation where you're just going through the motions because the live game isn't interesting, because the new ideas are good, but they eliminate the real drive and desire to continue playing the live game until they come out. So, seen this numerous times, and Paladins, watching the development of them from emasculated dress-wearing healers, la la la, flash of light, cleanse, oh, another 5-minute blessing, here you go. Anybody who's seen Paladins actually become somewhat respectable again as holy warriors or holy knights or whatever knows what the issue is there with patch mentality. Oh, look, something's happening that makes protection tanks better or retribution paladins better. Oh, crap, I don't want to play the current patch anymore. Come on, Blizzard, release the patch. Oh, wait, it's going to be another 2 months. So that's the thing. It's not anything exciting. It's been a thing with Blizzard, with World of Warcraft before and Blizzard products. It's been a thing like this before, and it will be again. But yes, patch mentality. This is the sort of thing that goes on in WoW. But the real issue I have with Shadowlands when it comes out is, does it take lessons from other games and what they're doing well, like ESO, Final Fantasy XIV, maybe even Star Wars: The Old Republic, and water down the ideas because Blizzard wanted to put their own spin on it? So a great example of this is in Warlords of Draenor. There was no flying, and there was the big fight over no flying. One of the consolation prizes, so to speak, that the devs wanted the players to understand was that they're going to have the most direct form of flight paths that have ever existed in the game. No more meandering all over the place, taking the scenic route every single time. These things are going to be straight and direct. Sounded cool. There were players that liked these ideas. But when you compared it to Guild Wars 2, which has fast travel, and Elder Scrolls Online, which has fast travel through way shrines, super straight line flight points are a watered-down version of fast travel. You already have a giant spider web of straight-line flight points. The flight paths are all quick, and they're all in a straight line. They're fast. What you basically have in that case is a crappier version of fast travel. You don't want to have fast travel, but you have flight paths that are straight lines. So all you have essentially is a crappier version of fast travel. What's the point? But if all you play is WoW, you're going to be fishbowled by that, and you're not going to know that other games are implementing better ideas. That's the concern I have for Shadowlands, that Blizzard's hubris shows up in more subtle ways this expansion, and we get more of the Blizzy knows best, as I call it, finger wag type stuff towards the player base, but it's a little more subtle than before instead of actually solving problems. I've played every single expansion. I have boxes from many of the earlier ones. I think the last one I bought was Warlords of Draenor. Didn't get Mists of Pandaria, so I skipped from Cataclysm to Warlords, and then Warlords was it. I didn't get one for Legion. But played a lot of the expansions, and I've seen these problems come back again and again and again. I'm at the point now where Blizzard's actually going to have to show me that they've changed before I'll take them seriously with Shadowlands. Because unlike before, I have other MMOs that I can play that, quite frankly, do things better than WoW. And what we see, whenever you tell Blizzard, what I've seen on the forums over and over again, and you've seen some of it at some of the BlizzCon footage too, people try to tell Blizzard developers about something that another game is doing better. And they get the song and the dance. Oh, we can't put that in our game because blah, 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 blah. Excuse me. Blah, 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 blah. We can't do that. And then, once everything dies down and there's less things to be embarrassed about, World of Warcraft suddenly has that feature. They sheepishly put it into the game. And they try and put their own spin on it. Oh, we're trying to make it better. But a lot of times what I see is it's just Blizzard just can't let a good idea exist on their own merits. They always have to mess with it. So glad that World of Warcraft is showing some signs of turnaround, but that could always just be very good marketing, which Blizzard is pretty good at doing. Marketing and PR, I'd say, there is some of their strong points. The bombastic style of Warcraft and the soundtracks, and even though they have essentially a cartoon game at this point with how dated the graphics are, the fact that WoW can command any kind of respect anymore is really a monumental accomplishment when it comes to selling the product as well as they possibly could. I would not be surprised if someday I hear that some of my successors in the business schools going for college degrees in business are reading about Blizzard and World of Warcraft as a case study in marketing in one of their textbooks. Maybe it's going on right now. I don't know. It's been a long time since my college days, but I would not be surprised if that was, if World of Warcraft was an example of something. I know that from folks talking about working for Blizzard, a lot of folks who work for Blizzard will start on WoW and move on to something else. I don't know if that's still the case, though. I think that example was from a couple of years ago.